the streets and their boats off the streets, and our lots are getting smaller and our homes seem to be getting larger, and there's not room for that property. So it's basically an area where people are going to own their property versus rent their property and use it for their personal RV space and personal automotive shops, but they're not designed for quote commercial for businesses. They're designed more for the personal use type of operation.
And how is it all maintained? I mean, once we build this, and
this is a PUD. There's owners association that is gated, that will have electronic gates. The gates are there. The electronic mechanisms are not there yet. And so it'll be the only one of its kind in southern Utah that's commercial gated versus residential. That would be residential, and it'll be maintained by the owners. Our economics for this is more of a higher end clientele that would be able to afford to maintain their property.
Is it mostly going to be hard surface, either asphalt, concrete things? I'm just thinking, what happens when weeds start growing up? Are the HOA is going to take care of this, or?
Well, each lot is individually owned, and so but the CCNRs are pretty strict that we've set forth. We're not even allowing animals in there, even though we could, as per ordinance. We want this to be a more upscale property. And if you look at some of the people that have bought in there, they're some pretty good, pretty prideful people in this community that are looking to have a place that's going to remain nice.
Great. I just want to make sure that once we get it, that it's going to maintain itself.
It will maintain. I think we've done a pretty good job with phase one, and we'll do a good. Then I think this will maintain itself pretty well with the audience that we're marketing toward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Do you have other comments, questions? Is there anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions.
You good? Okay. Good with this going on consent?
Yep.
Okay. Item number 3, consider granting final plat approval for the Quail Court at Cedar Knolls Townhome PUD.
Good evening, Tim Watson with Watson Engineering. We have a small PUD project that is not prideful people that are moving in. Sorry, Tom.
I knew you.
I had to.
Oh, dear me. Tough crowd. Yeah, this has been around for a while.
It has. We've been trying to deal with a couple of last minute items with the perimeter fencing around the property.
Good. Beat me to the punch, because that's one of my questions.
That and the drainage. Just we'll start talking about that while he's pulling it up.
Quite a public comment.
Oh, okay. We're gonna time out right there, because we're just dealing with the final plat. All the construction drawings are approved.
Okay.
So we should be pretty good there. We are
it's up to date a little bit.
We are detaining property, the flood water, the storm water on site, and we do have an easement going to the north, away from the residential houses. So if you look at the screen here, our property sits in this location. Our detention pond is going to be here, and we are discharging through storm drain piping out to the city street in that location.
In which?
Just off the view there. So I don't have a real accurate number, but I would say the majority of the issues that we're having here with these homeowners is because there is no drainage responsibility from the hotel. It drains to this corner, and there's a pipe that runs through their retaining wall that drains across my client's property into the backyards of the existing residential. So we are connecting that through past our pond. We are not detaining the hotel water. We are just going to detain our property water and then discharge it out into the street.
How come we don't have any kind of drainage thing there for the hotel? Was that prior to a certain requirement that we currently have? I mean, just wondering.
That was my
Well,
understanding.
There was that existing ditch that Tim was talking about that ran from their corner on out, and they've been using that existing ditch to get that water out to that street for 25 years.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, with this development, will it just run alongside of that?
No, so we're going to collect it again in a detention pond here in the north, what I'll call the northeast corner, and then we will have a controlled flow out to the street. But everything that is coming from the hotel and the historical is just going to be passed straight through.
Okay, but there'll be provision to pass it through.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are not going to detain that on our property.
Fair enough.
So yes, tonight we are requesting the final plat approval, or being moved on to the agenda to next week for the work meeting, the final plat for the PUD.
Okay.
All right. Are there other comments, questions? You good with this going on consent?
Yeah, I
Right.
guess. I'm just well. The reason
What other
the
questions
reason
do
I
you have, Scott?
hesitate. Well, there was just so much concern from those neighbors, and I want to make sure we never see the construction drawings, and I just want to make sure that those neighbors' concerns have been addressed.
It can go on action.
But I still need to know.
I
Yeah,
don't know what would
Like I say, that drainage from the motel has never really got down on them. There's a ditch that takes it right to the street. So,
but that's the drainage. But what about the fence? What about I know what it's like to have that kind of thing right in your backyard, and I want to make sure it's been addressed.
they are required to put a fence in.
Yes, we do have, we have
Would you
more,
like-
we
would you
have
like
more
more
fencing.
detail from
I would
staff?
like more detail.
We can provide you detail on the fencing and the storm drain.
Perfect.
Yeah, the fencing is included in the bond for the
Perfect.
development.
So I guess that if
I'm not trying to
following
be
your
tough. I just want to
ordinance-
know what's going on because I'm concerned about the neighbors that live up in that area. That's all.
And I understand that, but we have an ordinance that we have to follow.
No, I understand that.
And we can't get to this point until we follow that ordinance. I guess that's the thing that we can present whatever we need to you, but that is something that needs to be communicated early on so that we don't get to this point and are delayed a week or whatever it might be. We might not even be delayed, and I understand that. But that's the information that we have to be provided at your request.
But we didn't get it till yesterday, day before
So
yesterday.
Who didn't?
We'll
Council.
provide council with a copy of here's what we require for fencing, here's what we require for storm drain, here's how this subdivision's fulfilling those requirements.
Sure.
We'll give them that before next week.
I think probably the best thing I can give you is the notes that me and Tim passed back and forth to each other while we were going through the process. And the drainage was addressed, the fences were addressed, everything was addressed during that approval
And
process.
So according to the ordinance, though, does it address those people's concerns?
Yes, it
Okay.
addresses.
Okay.
We have to.
That's
We have to.
Well, you have to follow the
Well, you have to
ordinance,
follow
but
the
I didn't know
ordinance,
if
but-
the ordinance addressed what they were worried about.
exactly.
By
So-
ordinance, you're not allowed to drain onto your drainage onto somebody else's
Okay.
property without an easement.
All right.
Yes, that's, so when I say that we are referencing ordinances and we can't get to this point until we follow those ordinances, that's exactly right. And that we get everything approved and reviewed through the engineering department.
Would you like this to go on action and then you can see
Yes.
the notes and everything else?
Yes. Please.
Okay.
Okay, so this one will be on action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. Now we'll move to the staff portion with item number 4. Consider a resolution amending the Employees Advisory Council policy. Honey, we're so glad to have you here
I am
tonight.
so glad to be here. My name is Anjali Pitzer. I am now the chair for the Employee Advisory Council Committee, whatever. We had a couple of things come up in one of our meetings. We were just wanting to go through our bylaws and make sure they're up to date. And so some of those things that we've requested, wanting to propose changes on those. So the first one is, and I think you guys all got that thing. Okay. So the first one we want to propose the change is just to allow the full-time employees to be part of the members of the EAC. We had some discussion on part-time employees being in there. And that's with the part-time, it's really a problem with keeping them all together. We have so many part-time employees run through this whole, with the leisure services, aquatic center, just part-time stuff. So we just wanted to propose change on that. The next one would be to change how the employee of the month be presented. It has typically been presented by the EAC chair, but we kind of all got together and thought it might be a little more special if your direct supervisor or somebody, rather than somebody who's only maybe been there a little bit, address that and present that to the employee of the month. Next one is the proposed change that we would like to allow the full-time employee of the month to complete the 6 months probation before they can be eligible for that employee of the month. I think that's already in there. I can't remember if it is or not, but it would also give the EAC member who's awarded the employee of the month, we'd like to change that amount from $15 for the movie passes or up to $25 instead of the $15. We did some research on that as well. And as we all know, if you've been to movies lately, it's about $9 or $10 a person. And that $15 would just get you a really, really good seat by yourself. So we kind of wanted to include a partner with that one. So we're asking for that one to get a great big thing of popcorn, you bet. So that's the other one.
Just so the council
EAC
knows, the
funded.
funding source for the EAC is the employees themselves. It's a withholding that they take out of their checks. It's not.
That's right. They elect to do it.
It's city funds
themselves.
before it's paid to the
Right.
employees.
So it is
So it's
in
not,
no way
it's not impacting our
at
general
all.
funds
So,
or any of our funds.
okay.
It's out of their paychecks.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, and then the last one is that we kind of considered the flowers situation. We were sending flowers in our original bylaws. It said the flowers not to exceed $35. After doing much research on that as well, Zion's Floral's lowest possible price is like $39.99. So we had to bump that up to a little $40 just to make sure that was covered if anything were to ever come back on the EAC, which we don't want to have that happen. So just to let you know about that. And then also take out the sending flowers to the people in hospitals, because we don't really know when people go to the hospital, or lots of people do not want to know they've gone to the hospital, and we would request that be taken out. In addition to that, the money we would use for those flowers, for the hospitalization for employees or whatever, we'd like to use a little bit extra towards the baby fund, I guess you could say. A lot of people would have liked a little bit more money to spend on the baby in lieu of flowers, is what we found out. So we just like to raise the $25 baby gift certificate to $30, and hopefully that will make everybody happy.
How are these changes reviewed with the employees?
We put it out to the department heads first. Tyler brought that up in, I think it was the last department head meeting. I'm not quite sure. Proposed all this stuff. And then I guess from there, it's up to the department heads to ask their employees about it.
Okay.
So.
Do I understand that this is a member-driven thing that people can become involved, or they don't have to necessarily?
That's correct.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
they elect to at the time they're,
Yeah.
as far as I know, at the time they're hired, they have that option. Rian from accounts, she will go over all of that with them, and that's just an option that they have at that time. They can elect to do it, which we have to have their signature in writing saying that they elect to do this. The withdrawal, if it's $1.50 out of your paycheck, so, or not. So
I guess my question would be, and maybe this is a question for you, Mayor, or you, Paul, since this is a voluntary thing and they can choose to do or not to do it, do we have any jurisdiction over how much they give for flowers or not give for flowers?
Pass their policies.
I see. Okay.
It's part of our personnel policy. That's where we've traditionally done it. That's why we brought it to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck if you can get a bouquet for $40.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's
It's a little hard, so we wanted to kind of bring that current. So
yeah.
Percentage of the employees participate? Do most people do it? Or not?
I think the last count that we had, there's 144 employees that are participants in this in the EAC. So
That's a good number.
yeah, it's a pretty good number. I'm guessing that would be about a third
Well, as far as full-time, we have 150.
Give or take.
Four.
So, okay,
156.
so just about every full-time employee.
That's great.
So great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and it's a good program. I love it. It's good. And it just,
No, I think
just to
it's a great
recognize,
program.
recognize the people who are doing awesome at their job and just to give them their little 15 minutes of fame.
Right.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions?
Oh,
Okay,
thank
let's
you.
look on the action agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 5, consider resolution amending the city's fee schedule to include fees for a cemetery columbarium.
Wade Orm, City Parks and Outdoor Facility Division Head. Good evening, council. We're bringing the fee schedule change to you because the columbarium, as of now, is still on schedule to be delivered and set the 1st of April. So we wanted to make sure that we had a fee schedule ready for that when it came. So
I mean, it's just all being built off-site and just going to come and plop down.
with a big crane, but yes.
Wow.
So
We poured the footers last fall.
yeah, so we poured the footers last fall. The site it was compacted last fall with all this moisture. I'm sure it will probably need to be recompacted at some point. But yeah, they'll pull up with a big semi out on the back and have a crane that'll just hoist it off and set it in place. They pull the straps off of it, and then we poured the cement pad around that. And that's the only one that we have to do that way. For the entire build out, we can actually pour the rest of the pads, and then they can be set with the pad in place if we choose to go forward.
Continue
So,
to expand.
I hope everybody was able to read the fees that were there. Washington City and Tonaquin, which is in St. George, those were the 2 closest cemeteries that I could find that had columbariums or something to the equivalent. The Washington City one, if you see resident and it says $1,000, that's actually a double. So there's enough space in there to put 2 cremation.
For the you're talking about the non-resident, or what am I looking
For the resident and the non-resident on the Washington City. Ours will have singles and double compartments. So you can buy a compartment for just 1 urn, or you can buy a compartment that will hold 2 for companions. Theirs are just all doubles. They can hold 2. So and then there is no bronze placard or anything that's associated with their fees. You have to buy that separately.
Wade,
Yes,
can I
sir.
just ask you, because I've forgotten when I looked at this, is there still a general, guess I'll call it a general spot where they don't actually have to buy their own personal one, but that they can just,
No, that's all. That's actually down there. That's called I'm going to
I've
butcher it.
forgotten all,
An
yeah.
ossuarium, I think
Okay.
is how you say it.
I remember looking at it, but
Yeah, so some structures or these ossuariums, they'll have niches, the compartments on the outside, and then the center is hollow. And there's, for lack of a word, a chute, and you just drop them in and they slide into the middle. Ours does not do that.
okay.
So,
I didn't think it did, but I forgot. And
yeah.
I looked at all those options.
How many? I'm not sure how to call this either. How many spots or places?
So
does this
each
columbarium hold?
spot is called a niche.
Okay.
Our first phase structure will have 144 niches.
Okay.
Have you seen the
Seen the drawing of
plans
it?
to build
I
it out?
haven't,
We should show you
Oh.
those.
but I need to see that because I plan to be there.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll
can
get
have
you
a
that.
Sooner than later.
let's hope not.
Yeah, he probably hasn't seen
I
them.
haven't.
So
We'll
with
send
that,
that to you.
Great.
It's on the Scott info list.
it's kind of exciting with the columbarium coming in. When it is completely built out, it will have the same number of spaces as an entire section does for full-size burials. So it will eliminate the need to expand the cemetery in the future. It'll not eliminate it. It will prolong
Slow it down.
Yeah.
the need to expand
Won't move
the
as
cemetery.
rapidly.
You're right. So
I'm assuming I'll see this when I see the design, but I'm imagine the additional phases all would match, and so
You will love the design.
I'm sure I
Yeah.
will.
we picked it for that reason. It's
It's
very expandable. and-
Very aesthetically pleasing and very, you
aesthetically
can
all the same.
expand it in phases. And when you do each phase, it doesn't detract from anything
Ties
else.
right
That's
in.
great.
And it doesn't look like you're phasing it.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So with ours, as you can see, we have our proposed prices for singles and doubles for resident and non-resident. Our initial opening costs for resident and non-resident. The opening cost includes a bronze plaque. They will all be standardized. They will all look the same. The only difference will be names and dates. The reason we went with that was when they're able to sandblast and carve them like a regular headstone, it can get a little jumbled. You'll have a lot of conflicting pictures. So we decided to go this way. It's just looks a little cleaner, a little bit more standardized. So any questions with the fees?
No, I'm just assuming that anytime we set fees, we can always look and adjust them later on if necessary, if things were to change for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine.
And normally fee schedule, like changes to the fee schedule, just so big picture, come around with budget time.
Right.
Where we don't have any fees and where this will be delivered before budget time. That's
Right,
why
is
this
that
is coming now.
So with it being set, we'll start to sell the niches, but we won't be holding any services in them until obviously the concrete pad is poured around them and everything is ready for people to be able to actually get there safely. So
How long is that going to be? A month? Is that going to be, I mean, roughly?
no, a lot of that concrete being poured depends on weather.
Sure.
So, and then we're working on a road to get there as well. So make sure that there's access to it for cars and whatnot.
So it could be
I
the
will
1st
have
of
to-
June. Before
Yeah, it's at least the concrete pad, and it would be quick as soon as the weather is permitting for the concrete pad.
This winter, we don't know.
Correct.
Okay.
Too many prayers.
Wade, one quick question. After council meeting, can I have like 2 minutes with you and Kenny? I have
Sure.
a quick question.
Yes.
So don't run out, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions related to this? Okay, then it will go on the action agenda. And with that,
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're talking about tidying up. That bill's moving forward in the legislature.
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
think
I don't know.
economically, I think it's.
Well,